Wednesday, February 8th. When you applied for your permits, you were given instructions what we're doing here tonight. We have several cases. Some are residential, some are commercial. Some have been heard before, some are first time hearing them. We think that there's going to be a couple cases. We know one in particular, 4600 Main, that has quite a few people here who are not applicants but want to comment. We're fine with public comment, but we're going to want to keep it reasonable. That case will be heard last. If you're somebody who is part of that case, you're more than welcome to stay here, or you can go hang out in the hall. We probably won't get to you till about a half an hour. Trust me, we'll pull you back in and make sure everybody's seated and proper. But if you are going to stay, we just ask that there's no idle chit-chat back and forth because we're trying to get through this efficiently. Make sense? Okay. So we're going to do 2 swearing-ins if there are people outside who come late. But anybody who's here to speak tonight or will be coming up, we're going to want you to stand up and get sworn in, not just yet. So when I call a case, whoever's the applicant, please come up and stay at the podium. Leave the other podium open for other comments. Again, this is the Appearance Commission. This is not the board. This is not the Plan Commission. 2 of these cases today go from here to the Plan Commission where zoning and those types of restrictions are covered. And those who are in these plan developments from zoning, if they get through zoning, goes to the village board. So objections on those kind of cases, be plenty of opportunity for you, okay? Today we are here to look at appearance. That said, we take size and mass into consideration when we're talking about appearance. But we're not here to talk about zoning laws or anything like that tonight. We're here to look at the appearance of these projects, okay? That's what we do. That said, I am going to have anybody who's going to speak or comment tonight, and I hope that in the large group, you guys confine it to a couple of people to speak everybody's mind. We do have some outside correspondence from you. And anybody who's going to come up and testify, please stand up and get sworn in by the commissioner to my left.
If you plan on saying anything tonight, and
If you're here to observe, that's
for
fine,
the
just
record,
remain seated. Right.
please stand and be sworn. All right. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
When I call a case, the same commissioner is going to read comments that we get from the village, excuse me, from the village's Community Development Department. We take those into consideration, and those are read in for the record. Before we proceed in calling cases, somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
I make a motion that the meeting minutes of January 11th be accepted as written.
Great. All right,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so bear with me, everyone, bear with me. A lot of paper all of a sudden. We're going to call case 2023-002A at 8234 Keeler, which is associated with the following case, the case thereafter. So whoever's the applicant for that, please come up.
Currently, there is one single-family home on the lot that will be torn down to construct 2 new homes. The address of the north lot will be 8234 Keeler, and the address of the south lot will be 8228 Keeler. Staff would like to see some variation in the elevations as this building appears to be a mirror image of the building at 8228 Keeler, case number 2023-004A. When other similar lots have been developed, the 2 buildings may have looked somewhat similar, but different materials were used, the second floor had different setbacks, windows were in different locations. Staff feels this house looks too similar to the proposed one at 8228 Keeler. Staff suggests more variation in materials, color, texture, window size, and/or location changes, and potentially setting back the second floor on one building so that both homes have their own unique look.
Before we proceed into the presentation of this, is there any, are there any neighbors to this case that, okay, great. So you'll be given a chance to talk. Just wanted to know who it was and where I should look, okay?
So this was the original submittal. The applicant did send over some revised plans. I'll bring those up. That's the revised, right?
Correct.
All right,
Do you want,
here's my comment, my comment. Why doesn't somebody else talk? Joe, why don't you say something?
Oh, I've got something to say.
I've got a lot of, I gotta drink some water.
I like what you did to make the change, because of the overhang over the garage. I think that's successful. I like the darker one of the two, but I understand what you're trying to do is try to create a little bit of variation. Are these, they seem really similar. I think there was one built on Kildare recently. Is that the same architect, or was that your?
Well, I'm part of the design team, but Edward Livan was the one who did that one.
Yeah,
probably.
okay, so it seems really similar, and it's pretty successful, and that the massing is really similar to some of the Georgians and stuff on the street, which is kind of cool. As part of that started before I was on the committee, but I think it was approved when I was here, and I think one of the alterations to the original design was to put a hip roof on it. Personally, I don't think it's as successful as the one that was built over off of Central or something. I think there's another similar one near the police station. I don't know what street it's on, but that's a flat roof, and it fits into a neighborhood with a lot of colonials and other things like that. I like it. How wide are the lots here?
I think 43 or.
They're very tight.
43, so
Four-
is that, and they,
40 and a half feet.
40
It's-
and a half,
It's an
and
80, it's an 81-foot wide lot.
so that's, the plan commission is gonna look at variations, or?
No, I believe it's proposed 4-foot side yards, which are permitted by right. It would be the lot would have to go through a subdivision process, but it meets the lot requirements for this district, which is R2.
I like the design. The only comment I have is I wish you would've thought something about utilizing the alleys, but I understand that
Okay.
that's not really what people like anymore. However, I think by adding the glass garage and the garage, upgraded garage door helps a lot, and it also helps with the design of the building. So I happen to like them. I kinda like
Is there another perspective, or is this the only thing that's been submitted? I see a straight-on view instead of that,
That's the back. Oh, that's the, what is that?
no, those are the two different elevations of one house.
Yeah, that's the front and the back of the
Yes.
one house.
The first page from the presentation should be a different perspective.
What are the materials?
It's brick and mostly brick, and then aluminum.
Sorry.
The projection is aluminum siding?
Yes.
And what about its accompanying house? I need, we get this all the time, but I'm gonna show you another case, but I need to see them as a pair. So the white one, what is, the one on the left, talk to me about that.
The white one, it's brick, it's just white brick, and then the same material. It's gonna be aluminum siding that will mimic the wood. That's our goal. We were hoping to get some samples for that, but yeah, it pretty much looks
Are
like
you
wood.
stuck on white brick? I mean, you're,
No, we're not.
because to me, that's
Okay.
one of the, so here's what I'm gonna tell you to do. Brian, throw up the photo. So we had a case like this 5 to 10 years ago. Three blocks east over here, 7900 block along. And they came in and they started very boxy. This was built whatever. But you could see what they did here with eave lines and stuff like that. It makes it look more residential and congruous to the neighborhood by having these eaves wrap around.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see there,
Yes.
Joe, I don't know what your
Those are
perspective is on
Concrete
that, but
panels on it,
but
like those.
this looks to me, like, we're not against modern architecture. And this will show you that there's a precedent of having this stuff. However, this took about 4 meetings to get through before we got to this point, and this is what was built. I think more, my personal opinion, I think more needs to be done to your design to bring it into harmony with the other houses on the left or right of you. That's my opinion. I'm only one of 6. So. I don't know if anybody else wants to convey an opinion, Julie, and you sell these things.
I know, I sold that one too.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it's a little too severe, square.
So now maybe go back to his perspective. I'm sorry. I'm
On
sorry,
the other
Brian.
ones, yeah, those were also, those were concrete panels on the outside of those. These
As
are brick.
opposed to the siding, right?
Right, so, you know, another material other than a siding would be nice, but they're just very kind of industrial looking. Not that I don't mind modern, but I think in that neighborhood, which is pretty traditional, it should have a little extra detailing, especially at the top framing. I agree with you.
Do we have any other comments before I hear, see if any of the, is anybody from you guys have anything to say? Or are you just kind of here to, sure, come on up. And I will say that I did get an email where the committee
Yeah, this
received an
one.
email
This one.
from Mark Penning. Is Mark Penning here? Okay, that's fine.
Back door neighbor.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, several of the neighbors are here, including the one in the property adjacent. We're across the street
Mhm.
at 8211. I believe, I feel, and I think I speak for all of us, in that the design is so severe and so out of character with the surrounding buildings that it's just going to have a negative effect on our property values, and it just doesn't seem to fit, especially in these colors. The buildings on Long, if it was possible to back off of that and see what those two houses look like with the two houses on either side of them, to see if there's any sort of,
Coloring.
You're talking about, Brian, is this
yeah,
long?
how they look.
Brian,
the
what are
other
you
side of the
pulling
street.
up here, long? Okay.
That's the west side of the
So,
street.
yeah, I
That's
mean,
the
you know,
that's the neighbor.
So the one is on a corner,
No,
and this proposal is like right
it's not,
smack
it's not,
in the
it's
middle
not,
of the
it's
block.
not on a corner. It's not on a corner.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right.
Those are in the
It's not-
middle.
Really, it's 3 block, I'm telling you,
They took that ranch down
yeah,
next to it.
I'm telling you that this is, we've heard that.
Okay,
I get it, and I'm showing this as an example of
I
where I want
appreciate
this
that.
design to head, the
Okay.
direction I'd like it to head into, like warm up the colors.
right.
in
We
my
appreciate
opinion.
that, and there are other
And-
concerns, though.
And add other
Other
architectural elements to
I get that.
make it, get it away from what looks like a box.
I have, it was kind of described by a neighbor as shipping containers stacked on end.
Right, that's,
But, you know, that's the stark reality.
right.
For about 3.5 years after I retired, I did a side hustle, taking pictures of property for an appraiser to use in real estate appraisals, appeals. And I've done things as far south as 159th and into the Lake Shore suburbs like Highland Park and Lake Forest and that sort of thing. And it seems as though the properties that have had something this disparate from the surroundings have seen more success in getting their property taxes lowered because the valuations have gone down. And I think that's a concern for all of us on the block. Another concern is the size of these two homes, the number of bathrooms, bedrooms, and everything like that. We have pictures of flooding on Keeler Avenue. And adding this many square feet, right now, there's one 90-year-old woman who lives in that house. So the impact on a community from the density standpoint is another concern.
Sure.
But mainly, it's the look of it. And I appreciate that
Right, I completely
softened.
I completely understand where you're coming from. We have neighbors come in and talk about, you know, flooding and that effect. What I can tell you is this, is that whatever you got going on now, you're gonna have to face it. There's gonna be two homes there.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Right.
Unless this goes away. But you guys know your block. You've
Yep.
seen that house. It's not gonna stay there, right? You got an old 90, I don't wanna get into all that, but there will be some development there.
Yes.
It's not mine, trust me. I'm just here as the appearance commissioner. I'm trying to make sure that the two houses that go there look different than that. If they wanna go in the modern style, they're gonna be allowed to go in the modern style. I just like it to look more residential and less
Commercial.
Commercial.
boxy and
Yes.
commercial than this. And that's why I took that picture just for
Okay.
this example. I'm not in a position to be, I know Joe spoke and he's in favor of the designer. He doesn't seem to have a problem. He'll probably make a motion and we'll see what the vote goes. But in my personal opinion, I'd like to see more work done to it, soften the colors up, make it look more harmonious from that standpoint.
Right.
You're probably gonna see flat roofs. I know, I saw an email where, really, do we have to do, if that's the
Height
modern style,
restrictions.
that's fine, but,
Right.
but that's, beauty's in the eyes of the beholder, right? But that's kind of my point. With the flooding, everything's gonna go through engineering. Trust me, whatever they have to do for drainage and pumping drainage is gonna be more than any of the existing houses have to do, just because of the new codes on that stuff, okay? I know the house sits really high, the existing house sits really high relative to the neighbor. Maybe that house is causing all your flooding with all the water run there. I'm just, who knows? But that all gets engineered, is what I'm trying to tell you. So, I mean, I appreciate what you're saying, but you kind of have to appreciate what we're saying.
I do, I
you
do.
know?
Thank you.
Was there any other comment to that? Okay. I think you guys know my opinion. I'd like to, oh, yes, please, come on up, sir.
I wasn't sworn in.
Yeah, you're an honest person. Get up there. We'll get you sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
So I had a quick question regarding the size of the homes. Can we discuss possibly making them slightly smaller so that their footprint is not quite as extensive?
Well,
I
in-
mean, they're allowed a certain square footage, just like you would be if you were building the home, right?
Yeah,
And so,
based on what they've submitted, they meet the building coverage and permeable surface
right.
requirements.
So there's, none of that can ever be over what's required,
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
and it can't be taller than what is it, R1? Are
The
they
zoning's R2, they were limited, being that this is most likely gonna be a flat roof, to 23 feet to the top of the roof.
Right.
Building coverage is 40% maximum, they have to meet that, that's been in the code for years. Impermeable surfaces on the lot, 50% maximum.
So 23 feet's pretty, there's probably houses that are actually taller than 23
No,
feet.
it's not the height that's
Right.
bothering me, it's
I
the
know.
footprint of the house.
Right, I understand,
It's
I understand, but the permeable area and stuff like that is all, it all conforms.
And then one other thing regarding the driveway, how big is the driveway from the garage to the sidewalk?
Probably about 25 feet would be the
Yeah,
front
whatever
setback.
the governed
The ho-
setback
The
is.
homes would have to line up with the homes on either side.
Yeah, on our side, our house is probably the house that's closest to the sidewalk, and then all the other homes on the block are a little bit further back.
So
It's a weird
the rule for front setback is if a majority of I think it's 60% of the buildings on the block have a setback other than the requirement, then you average the two.
Okay.
So it's either gonna be 25 or it's gonna average it's gonna average from the neighbors.
Okay, so the concern about the distance is just
Sure.
people parking their cars and blocking the sidewalk and
I get it,
not having enough
I
space.
get it.
But thank you.
all right, great. So,
Brian, do you have any photos of adjacent property?
I actually drove it today, so.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty standard Georgians.
The Georgian there.
What can be more boxy than a Georgian?
Yeah, the Georgian with a hip roof, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. I know Georgian's one single box and, but, so, you guys have heard what my recommendation, you heard Joe, I don't know if Joe, what you think, I mean, if you wanna make a motion and we vote, but my recommendation is he
Tweak it.
go back to the drawing board, come back next meeting with a little eased look and put some eave work into it or something to just make it stop and not look like it's, you know,
Commercial building.
like that.
And if you have some samples, some brick samples, particularly the light color one, that's the one I'm most uneasy about.
Okay.
If you're gonna use like the Endicott iron spot like you've done on on the darker one, I think it's a really nice looking brick that kinda, it doesn't necessarily match the neighboring houses, but it's a really good quality. So,
We're pretty flexible on the colors and the materials. The one thing I'm not sure about how the client is gonna react, it's about the eaves. It's not gonna be that easy to insert new eaves and still make it look as an overall. I mean, I feel like
you're the expert.
Right,
Yeah.
get creative, that's all I gotta
Yeah.
tell you. Again, those two houses I showed you,
yes.
4 meetings,
Okay.
And
with
those,
about this many people because they were cutting a tree down, okay?
Okay.
So
And
I'm
the-
telling you, this is gonna be a process, but you're gonna have to get creative.
and the Eve challenge is, it could be a fun, creative,
Right.
I mean, it could be pretty simple to do. I don't
No,
wanna point out what you can do, but I think you can come up with something pretty
Okay.
decent. I happen to like, what you've done here, and I'd like to encourage everybody, including the neighbors, to take a look at, the house that's on Fargo, just east of Niles Center, and then one that was just built, real similar to this in style, on Kildare, just south of Kirk. And it's, they're almost, they're really close in design and in massing. So it
Yeah,
kind
and
of,
go take a look at those two houses I did over here, or
On
not,
Long.
I did.
Long.
I took a picture of today on Long,
7,900.
just to give you an idea of, you see how it looks after 5 years, and it's kind of, it does fit in. It doesn't, these never look good, but, renderings, but when you see a built home, it's a little different.
one of the things that I like about the streets in Skokie is that they've developed over time from 1940s Georgians all the way up to,
Yeah.
you know, tear down and rebuild. So there's a lot of variation on the streets, and that's why I like the contemporary design, partly because they're not mimicking and kind of badly mimicking a historic design, but coming up with something new that has the same kind of massing. So I appreciate it. Thank
Okay.
you.
So, you okay with that direction?
I am. Just some recommendations in terms of colors.
Well,
or,
I would actually drive the neighborhood, I'm sure you have again. But I think if you, and this is what we told that other case to do, try to get some bricks, colors that are
More harmonious.
Yeah,
harmonious
or-
with the existing
okay.
brick colors, and then, at least in their visualization, it isn't as,
All right.
yeah, it isn't just popping out, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So, and, you know,
Some type of hardy or cementitious panel rather than
the siding maybe,
Siding.
yeah.
on the one that has the bay might help as well. It
Okay.
might soften it up and warm it up a little bit.
All right.
White.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you very much. And thank you guys very much for your comments, so. You're all free to leave. But,
Or stay.
and then when it comes back up again, Brian, they get notice, right?
It will automatically, I mean, unless we're notified, we'll put it on the next agenda.
Okay, so
If they,
just keep an eye on it for next month.
if the applicant notifies us they want a later date, we'll adjust.
Sometimes they skip a month, is what we're saying, so. Okay? All right, well, that knocked 2 off the board. Now we're gonna go to 8530 Keeler Avenue.
Staff has no objections to the proposed elevations of the addition and feels it complements the existing home. The applicant will need relief from the 51% masonry requirement. Staff is in favor of granting this relief as the existing building is all siding.
As I asked in the last case, is there any neighbors to this residence that want to be heard on this case? Okay, thank you.
Existing house. That's the color rendering that was submitted. If you want side elevation or rear, let me know.
Joe? Joe?
How did you know?
Well, I could start. They're two different architectural styles, so.
Yeah.
I really like it, and actually the style, the roof line of the existing house is that gambrel style, so it actually does tie together. The one comment I have is that, well, actually I have two, but one is a throwaway. Talk to the neighbors to the south. We approved a plan right before I.
The north of this one, isn't it?
No, not the one south. It's the stone one.
Oh.
Right before I was on the committee, so
Okay.
maybe 2 years ago. It has the same roof line over the garage. It's almost exactly, it's an L shape, and they're taking the stone building and they're putting a gambrel roof over the garage. I don't know when they're gonna do it, they may never, but talk to them. It's gonna be two kind of identical,
Oh, really?
unique designs next to each other. That one's a little different. I think it's a little bit more, I guess, shingle or shore style, but just take a look at it or take a look at the
Is it under
archives.
construction or?
No. It was approved probably 2 years ago.
Okay.
And maybe 2.5 or 3 years ago, right around the beginning of COVID. So just take a look.
Sure.
It'd be kind of interesting to see how that ties together. I mean, it could be kind of cool. Otherwise, I like the design. I like the materials. If it's all gonna be, assuming that it's all gonna be hardy or cedar like the existing
Yeah,
house.
it's kind of an intricate siding detail. It's got the, see, maybe a 5-inch exposure and then down to a 2, and it alternates that. It might show up on one of the other, like 2D drawings, so the intention is to repeat that. And there is a brick base also too, that's.
The house
not-
was originally built in the like 1900 or something.
Yeah,
I have two comments here. We go back to the,
Oops, sorry.
go back to the thing. So, like, I think it's fine. Yeah, I wish I could afford it, but whatever. But I'm curious, is the elevations are dramatically different, and if that's the statement you wanted to make, that's fine, you know, versus the old house versus the new expansion. However, the dormers, I'm just wondering why you didn't create the same kind of nice dormer detail on top of the 3 dormers on the old house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well,
With that shape, and then, you know, and then with, also with shutters. Now, I know you have shutters on the
On the
west,
front.
excuse me,
That's
east
east.
exposure.
Right.
But maybe not, why, there's no shutters on the 3 upper windows. Yeah.
the fact that
Just to
they.
kind of bring it together and make it look like, it looks really like 2 separate buildings to me.
Well, as far as the dormers on the new construction there, when it pierces through the cornice there, to have to increase the width to put the shutters on didn't seem appropriate.
I buy that.
And with the gambrel roof, the other difference is too, is that there is a 3rd story on the original house. And it's a habitable 3rd story. It's nice big third story. And we actually added 2 dormers on this side. Oddly enough, the original house was really built to face the golf course. And
You can tell that
turn
from the
its
golf
back
course
on the
side, right,
street,
right,
really.
Right.
But, so I don't know, I think that the gambrel roof is an opportunity to do this kind of dormer that I've,
Okay. That's fine. Again, like I said, it's fine. I would have, if it was me, I would have used that same dormer detail for the dormer roofs. But if that's what's,
thought about it,
huh?
thought about it.
Okay. That's all I asked. Anybody else have any comment?
Looks fine.
I had one quick aside, and this is not, it's not really part of the purview of our, but there's a really old ratty chain link fence along the.
Oh, I know, yeah, I know,
And the
golf course side and the street, yeah,
all the way
especially
around.
the street side, right?
Yeah, and the coach house is getting a little ratty. It's, you know, it's
The intention
especially.
is
Okay,
to fix that up, is to renovate that as well.
I see.
And to take down the chain link fence. I've reminded the owner about that a few times, so, fact,
Is that part of our,
Well, no, they'll get a notice from the village just that it's on a track road and it needs maintenance, so.
Yeah.
I would assume that if you're gonna drop, you guys put a price tag on
lot.
that, on this, that you'd probably take care of a new fence too, so.
and take a look at the archives and see what they're doing to the south, just to.
Yeah.
To have an idea, and I don't really remember, but I remember that it's more of a, kind of a Hampton or shore style.
Yeah.
It has the same gambrel roof over the garage, which would be almost identical to this.
All right, Joe, fire away with a motion. We got,
All right, yeah, we
Work to
got a
do.
long one. I move that a certificate of appropriateness be granted for case number 2023-003A at 3530 Keeler as presented.
maybe second?
Second.
All in favor?
8530.
Aye. So passed. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Case number 2020, I don't know if this is this is an old case, 2020-037A at 4819 Main Street for a mixed-use revised elevations. Are they here?
The petitioner submitted revised side and rear elevations showing a proposed change in materials from stucco to siding. Staff is not supportive of the petitioner's request to use siding on the side and rear elevations of the second floor.
So this is our under construction second floor of a building on Main Street that'll be residential use. This is the original approval. Excuse me. Fiber cement stucco panel.
Where is this?
This is 4819 Main Street.
All right, so we approved this in 2020, and what, you're coming back and saying you want to change the material?
Yeah, so I have two issues with the current material. One is from experience that I want to share with you, and the second is timing.
We may not want to hear the experience, but go ahead.
Okay, so we have a
Is there
building.
Is there a photo of this?
I could get it on street view.
I'm trying to get through that here.
There should be photos on the same PDF that was submitted, but
So this is a commercial front.
commercial front. Yeah, the front is not changing. The elevation for the front is still the brick that we're painting white to match the bottom with some black trim. The thing that's changing is the stucco on the sides and the back for the second floor, because the first floor is brick. But the stucco from the sides and the back, we'd like to change to a hardy board cement siding. That's the same color, and two reasons why. So we have another building on 8100 Oakton. These pictures are coming through now. The large side is stucco, and that stucco is about 4 years old. There's pictures there that are 2 years old that are in great shape. A couple of bad wet to very freezing temperatures, and we had a lot of that just come apart. One of the main reasons is stucco absorbs a lot of water compared to hardy board, and so that's a large issue that we're having. We don't want
All right, so
to, especially on neighbors' roofs.
Understood. So where do you want to put this? Show me on the where, is this in the rear or?
Just the rear and the sides. So basically the same place that has a stucco on right
But
now.
The front of the building that says Flawless Homes is going to remain unchanged.
Correct. That the elevation for that is not changing.
I can speed this up.
Yes, please.
I walk by
Thank
it
you.
all-
I have a
walk by
sample
it all the
also.
time.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
So
Is this a
you're-
no-brainer?
So you're doing a lap siding, a hardy lap siding on
Correct.
a
Yeah.
panel?
So
It's really visible from this view right here, so this,
Just in that upper corner?
the Flawless part, oh, go back. The Flawless building, which is right there.
It's just up in
They've
that,
gone up a second floor. They've got brick on the front that wraps around about 8 feet. And then from that 8 feet back
and nobody sees it.
is,
Yeah.
and I was wondering what you were gonna do, cause this was approved before I was on, so I
Yeah.
was staring at it thinking, I hope that you do a good
So,
job.
do you want to make a motion to approve?
Yes,
Go.
I don't mind this.
Go.
I move that a certificate of appropriateness be granted for case number 2020-037A at 4819 Main Street, as presented.
Well,
Second.
can you be, on the plans, it's not specific as to the type and color?
Can you-
Can we have that just for the record?
Yeah, so it's the cement hardy board, this is the sample, and the same texture that we're using. We actually have the materials on site. The project manager already ordered those.
Don't say
before.
that, just keep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, nothing's
It's on the
installed, so
way.
it was like, you know, but, yeah,
Fine.
You got enough, Brad?
What's the color?
It doesn't.
a white.
I got,
Is it, so what color's the brick on the front? Are you gonna paint that? 'Cause
Yeah,
it's
so
orange.
the brick is interesting. This old brick, we couldn't find this brick, so we had to get it cut. And it's a rock face brick, so we waited 3.5 months for the brick to come in. They had to make it at one plant in Indiana and another plant in Kentucky, and they had to cut it at a different
Regardless,
place.
so are you gonna paint it, or? 'cause
Yeah,
we're-
so currently the brick is painted right now, black and
Yeah.
white, and then the extension of the brick will remain the same.
So the orange is gonna be painted, so it's just the.
Correct,
it's,
yeah.
It's the right texture and everything. to
Correct, we
match
had
it.
to find the right
Okay.
texture, because it was impossible.
And it's gonna be
to find.
painted white,
Correct, same
and then
colors,
this is
yeah.
gonna be white on the sides?
Yes, and then
or
there are
off-white or
some,
whatever.
black trim marks, around the very top and then under the windowsill, but that.
The
so-
only thing I would recommend is do a different color on the cutouts on the inside. Those little the light wells that you built on the.
Oh, the light well,
on the
okay,
west
so,
side.
we do have
Accent
some
color.
black trimming to kind of bring it all
Do a
together.
different color.
Yeah,
Just, either paint it or just, 'cause I think it'll just look a little more striking.
okay.
If it's all white, it's just gonna be kind of all kind of white.
Yeah, so I personally wanted to do a lot more black, the
Do a
issues
dark
that
color then
yeah.
on the inside of, I know they're light wells, but it'll look really cool as you're driving from the west, 'cause
It
you
would
see
look cool, yeah. And then
So
the sides are,
By the way, you
buildings
do
are,
really see it.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
very noticeable.
yeah. There's buildings on the side also that have siding, and the rears of those second
do
floor
you want to
buildings also
modify
siding.
your motion to,
Yes.
please do.
I modify, number 2020-037A to, include a darker color on the light wells.
Okay. Anybody second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed, so passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
We got one more case and then the Main Street case. After this next case, we're doing a little biology break. Let them set up and then we'll go have some fun. Case 2023-001A, 5256 Dempster, Coldbrook Design, commercial new building with a drive-through.
The project will need to go before the Plan Commission and Village Board for final approval. Overall, staff has no objections to the proposed elevations of the new building. Staff would prefer to see the sign on the east elevation centered. The proposed ground sign will be visible from Dempster Street, therefore it is not the only sign visible to westbound traffic. The applicant will need relief for 2 signs rather than the one allowed on the south and southwest elevations. Staff has no objections to this request for relief. The sign on the north elevation must be removed as it is not in the signable area per section 82-27C of the Village Code.
Are you both on the case?
Yes.
Okay, you're both for the applicant, right? Is
I
there
don't know who
anybody
she
else?
is, but we're here together.
Okay, is there anybody else? Yeah, you can squeeze them together. No, I'm just teasing. Don't squeeze them together. Okay, good. Go ahead.
So this is currently the bank that's on the corner of Dempster and Lockwood, and it's being converted to this Dunkin' Donuts. We are just to make the drive-through, to add a drive-through, and we're shaving off 2 sides of the building.
This is across from Benny's?
This is the former Byline Bank. It's been
Byline.
vacant for the last 5 years or so.
Oh,
It
yeah,
used
yeah,
to
yeah.
also
So,
have
yeah, I got
Premier.
it. So you're
On
just
the
west of
west
that
end of
mall.
that.
You're
Mhm.
literally right off the
On the west
expressway.
end.
Yeah,
Good
right
spot.
off
Good spot,
exactly
yeah.
at Dempster and Lockwood.
Got it.
Very dangerous.
So we're shaving off two sides, actually three sides of the building to create the drive-through, working with the existing structure that's there. The stone water table is there, it's all masonry now. We're painting the masonry because we're gonna fill it in with more masonry and then adding cementitious hardy board type panels, which is the Duncan standard, and we've been in front of you guys a couple times for different projects.
very similar look to the TUI.
Tui.
The TUI one, yeah. And the colors are very similar to what you've seen at the one on Dempster near Crawford.
It seems to me that really we're down to just chatting about the sign
signage.
issues.
So we are absolutely don't oppose the staff's recommendation to centering the one sign on the east elevation.
Is that the only?
And to remove the Skokie runs on Duncan signage on the north elevation.
You're good with all that?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's kind of nice to have, because you're right at the beginning of Skokie's, but if that's the direction, then we're okay to move it.
But that's on the north.
It's on, yeah, I don't know, Steve, if there was anywhere to put it.
Nobody's gonna see it.
Yeah, if
It's-
there was any
it's-
other
It's
place
a Duncan
to.
standard, they have it at the
Faces
beginning of the
Right.
drive-through,
Right.
and that's
But
the
it-
kind of beginning of our drive-through.
If we're able to relocate it on another elevation, would that be acceptable? I don't know if
I'll let
there's.
you work with staff on that.
Well,
Okay.
on the south elevation, they have two signs instead of one, which staff doesn't have any objections on based on the location, the size. Same thing on the southwest elevation where they get another sign. It's two signable areas. Staff doesn't have any objections to those two due to the size and the location where they're at. East elevation, one sign, we just like this a little bit more centered. The north is the one that doesn't have a street frontage
We can
or
remove
any
it.
kind of
Yeah.
entrance to the parking lot.
We can remove it, there's no issue.
Okay,
We can
let's just
remove
make it
Skokie runs
easy.
on
Thank
Duncan.
you.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be there.
Okay, anybody? Go ahead, Julie.
Okay. I move that a certificate of appropriateness be granted to case 2023-001A at 5256 Dempster Street with the sign modifications and everything else is okay.
Anybody second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So passed. Good luck.
Thank
Very
you.
much.
I'm gonna call this case, we're gonna take a couple-minute break so I can do something, and we'll let you guys get set up, and then I've got a few announcements. Case 2022-067A, 4600 Main Street, new multifamily residence and townhomes. Tom, you can read that, you wanna read the, you can read the
You
record?
don't want me to wait?
No, go ahead. I've read it.
This development will need to go before the Plan Commission and Village Board for approval. Dates for these meetings have not been officially determined. The townhome orientation has changed, and the front walls will face east and west and not north towards the residences on Elm Terrace. Instead of one continuous building line setback at 32 feet 6 inches, now there are 8 townhomes, 37 feet wide each, but setback at 30 feet. Overall, staff has no objections to the proposed building elevations. The materials and colors were previously discussed at the January 11th hearing. As a note, the balcony guardrails have been revised to be bird-friendly. Staff is in favor of a 6-foot-tall fence or wall along the north lot line rather than the proposed 5-foot fence. This would provide more screening and security for the neighbors to the north. Good evening.
Do you want us to wait till the chair comes
Yes,
back? Or
please.
Okay, before we get started, let's look at the microphone. Before we get started, I just want to say that I wasn't at the last meeting. Tom was chairman for me. I understand there was a meeting and neighbors had quite a bit of feedback. if you want to say that. They've made some changes. We're going to go through the whole process again. We're going to let them present their case. Is Brian back yet?
I'm not sure where
Okay,
Brian is.
well,
so-
he doesn't need to hear this. But we're gonna let them hear their case, and then it's my understanding there's a couple people, this isn't the Plan Commission or the Village Board. So I'm not going to, you know, those types of things about whether this is right, is a zoning question. We're here to look at appearance. That said, we do think that size matters, okay, and where it is. So we will have some, at least, feedback on that, okay? But do you have an organized response? I'm saying like one person's going to represent?
There's multiple people who have separate issues to speak about, all related to.
Sure, I just need to know how many. Raise your hands if you plan on speaking, because I may have to condense you down.
There's 3 formal presentations that I think
Well, how long are these presentations?
4 or 5 minutes.
You're gonna get 15 total minutes, so figure that out, okay? And again, I want this to be talking about appearance, okay? Again, the village board meeting, you sign up for public comment, stuff like that, okay? This is the appearance commission, okay? And then from here, it goes to planning. And then from planning commission, another meeting just like this. And then from planning, and if they approve it, it goes to the board, okay? So I'm not trying to be harsh, trust me, if you guys have probably heard me, I take what the people have to say very seriously, okay? And we take it into consideration. So, but we're not gonna sit here for an hour listening to presentations, okay? So, those are the ground rules. And then you guys talk amongst yourselves, who wants to go first, second, third, whatever that is, okay? Go.
Mr. Chair, thank you. And in that same interest, I'll make my introduction very quick. Mark Gershon with Polsinelli. I represent the applicant. And we really appreciated the opportunity at your last meeting to get your input and to try and address some of that with our site. I think you'll see, as was mentioned, that we've made some fairly significant changes to address those questions. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to the people you actually want to hear from, our landscape and project architects.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike D. Rowan. I'm a principal at Fitzgerald Associates Architects. I'm here to share with you the changes that we've made from the recommendations and comments that we heard at the last Appearance Commission. The biggest change that we made was to the orientation of the townhomes. You'll recall the last site design showed that the townhomes were aligned along the north property line. We've turned all of the townhomes 90 degrees, have not changed the quantity of townhomes, but we have been able to actually increase a few parking spaces on the site with this change. The other biggest comment that we heard was the color and appearance of the facades and the rhythm of the townhomes. We've adjusted all of the colors, and you can see the 2 bricks that we're proposing here. These bricks would be used not only in the townhomes, but on the apartment buildings as well, so that we can create one community for this development. The other materials that we'll be using is a combination of the 3 different colors of fiber cement siding that are here with black windows, which is the tray you're seeing on the board. That combination of those materials is what we're bringing to try to address the fact that we're fitting into an existing neighborhood. You've said it in some of the cases earlier tonight. There are, there are color palettes that fit in and color palettes that don't. And we feel that the changes to the color palettes that we've brought here address many of the comments and concerns that we've heard. The base of the buildings are brick. Nearly all of the townhouse facades are brick. The panels between the windows is where we're using the fiber cement panels, as well as marking the entryways that you can see above the doors in the blown up elevation there. The brick around the balconies on the apartment building has also been raised up to the 4th floor, in addition to marking the entries at the ends of the buildings. The other big change that we made to the appearance of the apartment buildings is incorporating the elevator and stair overrun at the east and the west ends, where they meet the clubhouse in the middle of the of the block, where the two apartment buildings share the clubhouse. We've unified those massing elements of the apartment building with a single material, and that is the tallest part. We've kept the apartments and the townhouses with flat roofs to minimize the height, as well as stay appropriate to the sort of the modern design that we see in a lot of the other characteristics of the neighborhood.
Cool.
Those are the primary changes that we've made, and we have additional 3D views that we can show you, as well as
If you
to
run
address
through
some of the
quick, I know that you guys, yeah, go ahead.
comments. Yeah.
I don't want to be disrespectful of
What
your
page?
time, but I want,
Do you know page?
you know what I mean? I want you to get to it and.
6.3 and 6.4. So it should be down 2 more pages. So this was the original rendering that we provided. So this is the revised rendering looking to the northwest. This can show you how the townhouses have been rotated, the trees that are being planted all around the property. We were asked to provide 2 additional views, which are the next 2 images. This is a view looking to the southeast from the west. This shows the single drive lane that we now have through the property that brings all of the vehicular traffic to the apartment buildings, the townhouses, as well as providing the guest parking. It shows the variation of the townhouse facades, both looking at each other in their internal yards as well as to the street facade. And then the last view is more of a direct north view. And this shows that clubhouse that sits between the apartment buildings, the elevator elements, the massing elements that I was talking about, and how they connect the apartment building to that, as well as the orientation of the apartments, the townhomes to the neighbors to the north. We intend to keep as much of the existing landscaping along the north property line, in addition to building the fence that was discussed, so that we can maintain their privacy as well as privacy for the new residents that will live in these units.
Okay.
And happy to answer any additional questions you have.
Yeah, I think they kind of went through that out. I'm just trying to figure out what to say here. Why don't we hear from a concerned neighborhood group who wants to give a presentation? Did you get sworn in?
I did.
Okay. Can I just, I'm going to make a comment before you start. My personal opinion of this is, look, I have personally, and hear me completely, I personally have nothing wrong with the design. My problem is, it's in the wrong site, okay? No, we're not, no, please, we are not doing that, okay? You can save that for the board meeting, this isn't Carvana, okay? So, look, I know your challenge as architects to come up with a great design, and that you're given a directive by your client that says, I need X amount of units. I get that, okay? I think the design is just fine. My personal opinion for this site is it's in an R1 and R4 district where nothing's higher than, you go down Main Street from the whole way, the tallest building is the old Principal's Bar, okay? That's 3 stories tall, okay? So I think, from an appearance standpoint, I took a photo of another 5-story building, which is what this is. This is literally right up, where you have it is literally right up on Main Street, and it just doesn't work for me from an appearance standpoint, okay? It just, me personally, now, again, like I said, I'm one of 6 people here, okay? But if this was 2 blocks west and 2 blocks south in a different district where those vacant car lots are that we see 2 proposals for every year that never get built, with mixed-use development, I would have absolutely no problem there, and it'd be, but I just, in my heart, to the right is an R1 house, and to the left is there are 2 or 3 story, and it's all 2 or 3 story. This would just, to me, stick out like a sore thumb. So that's my comment before these guys present their case. But maybe before I let them present their case, I don't know if you have any feedback off of my comment. Maybe just to be fair, if you don't mind. I'm just trying to make this as organized as possible, but you understand where I'm coming from. We're as a commission, and again, this is just my opinion, as a commission, we are appearance. We don't, I'm not on the zoning or planning commission. I have a hard time thinking it's gonna get past them, but I'm not them, okay?
Right.
But in my view, from an appearance standpoint, when I drive down that road, which I do frequently, it doesn't work. I know there's an existing building to the back that's part of the school, which would be about the same height as the townhouses,
Correct.
right?
Yep. The
So,
school and the townhouses
again,
are about
I
the
don't
same
really
height.
have an issue with the townhouses. I think the whole thing could be a townhouse community that looks a little better than how it renders up.
Sure.
And I think that's sellable, you know what I mean? But I have quite honestly, those 2 buildings, when you saw the rendering, it looked like a medical office building. With all due respect to the design, okay, renderings, like we all know, renderings don't do it true justice. I get that. Just like we showed that photo of those cases.
Yep.
And then when I see the elevator towers, like a Power King garage elevator tower. So it's just hard for me to grasp and to be in good conscience to say to those citizens, yeah, we did our best work, we let this go through. So I'll let you speak.
Okay.
And maybe I've spoken too much.
Can we go back to two views, Brian? So I understand the concern about, taller buildings. This isn't the zoning committee, right? But
Correct.
it is, there are 4 districts to the west, across the street. That isn't what's built there, but that is the district that's across the street to the west.
But R4 is multifamily.
Correct, which
and-
is
And what's the allowable height?
60 feet.
No.
With site plan approval, 60
site
feet.
pl- yeah,
Yeah,
right,
with,
right.
correct, not by right.
Not by
Right,
right.
not by
yes.
right.
Right.
And
But
but there is
it's the same
nothing-
thing that we're asking for, because
Understand.
our buildings are proposed at the same height.
Right.
The challenge with creating more housing, which, let's face it, the country is in dire need of more housing, right, is that we have to find locations.
Guys, please, I'll let you guys talk.
There has to be a place to create more housing, right? And it's needed everywhere that we all live. There's some 5 million units of housing that's needed across the country. And every community can contribute to that to try and help solve that problem. This is just one example. And so how you create that housing and some of the energy codes and the building codes for life safety that require elevator overruns, because now the elevators are required because we have to have emergency access in case of an emergency. Stairs at the ends of corridors change the shapes and size of the way buildings are planned. They can either be hidden or they can become an expression of the building. Sort of that form follows function, right, rule of how these buildings work. The buildings are set back to try and, from Main Street, right, to give a front yard. It's not huge, but we're being, considerate of the front yards that do exist along Main Street. There are other 3- and 4-story buildings that aren't that far away, and you can see some of them in this photo. The pitched roofs of those buildings certainly push them up a lot closer to the height of our proposed building. And the shadow studies that we did, and we can show them,
I saw those
don't
depi- I know-
cast
I know-
shadows
but
on anyone but
But
ourselves.
that's a
So-
fact, that's a fact of the townhouses, not of, you know what I'm saying? You're right, the shadowing of the townhouses do not affect the neighbors, you are
Right.
correct.
Correct, because we located the
Correct.
apartment building far away from the
That's
neighbors to
I'm
the
not,
north.
again, that's not my position, but my position, hey, Brian, why don't you throw the picture up of that I
Skokie
took-
Boulevard?
yes, that I took today. This is a building that's exactly the same height. It's a 5-story building, it's a mixed use. This one might even be a hair shorter. But that's a big wall. It's a big, excuse me, guys, I really, okay? And again, that's on Skokie Boulevard with a parking lane, 2 lanes, 2 lanes, a parking lane, right? And that's my view that I took today across the street from this building. And I looked at it and I said to myself, do I see 2 of those actually a little wider in that spot on Main Street? And I couldn't in good conscience say I do. So that's my opinion, okay? So I think with that, I think we'll we'll give you guys, if you can make it snappy as quickly as possible. And again, let's try to keep it to the topic at hand.
Sure, absolutely, and I want to thank you for
Sure.
making all of my points so I don't have to read
Well,
this.
I kind of thought that would help you guys. I didn't mean, again, I have no skin in this game other than what we do here as the Appearance Commission.
Every member of the board was given a copy of the letter.
Yes.
That was, the neighbors in the 2600 Main Street area. Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry about that.
Every member of the board was given copies of the letter that the neighbors of 2600 Main Street have agreed with, and you have a list of their names and addresses. There's 107 names on that list, and that list is growing. I'm just going to read the letter for the record.
Sure.
To the Village of Skokie Appearance Commission regarding 2022-6, no, 2022-067A, 4600 Main Street, Skokie, Illinois. We, the undersigned Skokie residents and neighbors of Erie Crown Hebrew Day School at 4600 Main Street, Skokie, Illinois, respectfully request that the Village of Skokie Appearance Commission deny the above application. Please consider our many concerns, some of which are listed below. 1, lack of compatibility with surrounding properties. The appearance of the proposed development is not compatible with existing surrounding property and exhibits a massive and total lack of conformity with those surrounding properties. The proposed development size, design, facade materials, and coloration are totally out of harmony with the residential properties which surround the property. 2, insufficient public space. The proposed development does not provide sufficient public space in that it provides no space suitable for public gathering or recreation. The proposed setbacks are inadequate for these purposes and significantly less than those of existing structures on the property. Also, as a result, there will not be sufficient buffer between adjacent homes to the east, north, or west, leading to privacy issues and other concerns, particularly considering the heights of the proposed structures. 3, insufficient green space. The proposed development dramatically reduces green space on the subject property. The strips of green space along the perimeter are extremely narrow and comprise approximately 21% of the total area of the parcel. The interior of the proposed development is mostly concrete with a few tree islands here and there. The proposed development would be approximately 24% green space. This property is currently is approximately 47% green space. So it's currently 47% green space. 4, this project would result in a substantial reduction of surrounding property values. For these reasons and many others, we believe that the Village of Skokie Appearance Commission should not approve this proposed development. Respectfully, the neighbors of 4600 Main Street.
Good, thank you. Was there anybody else who wanted, okay, thank you.
Which name?
It's under Gordon. Kind of giving it away. All right, thank you. Thanks everyone for your time. I'm going to keep everything brief. If you go to the next slide. What I'm going to show you here is basically how there's disharmony with the community. So next slide, please. All right, so let's talk about Erie Crown's current state. This is what you see with the school. The applicant is proposing to, as a non-for-profit, build 350 different units in Skokie across 2 developments, 158 in the current one we're talking about right now. This is what the school does. They go 2 wide down the existing street. They also drive their cars straight through other people's property, as you see here, presenting a danger of traffic. Next slide, please. We also learned last time we were here that they are going to be giving back that piece of property that you see highlighted on the side there on Kenton. That's what it looks like. It's just trash and rubbish there. They don't take any care of their school or their land. They actually had a Hanukkah party and they threw materials all over the place. All right, next slide, please.
This is not relevant, thank you.
You got it. All right. The appearance, not good. All right, so let's talk about what it's going to look like. Their new proposal, aspirational state. Next slide, please. Oh, yeah, Fitzgerald, to their credit, they do some really good work. Yeah, they got a tough task cut out for them right here. They've done some good work in Skokie, too. So, but let's talk about what they're going to do today. Proposing to do. All right, what do you call a tulip in a rose field? A weed. All right. So here's what you see, right? Some of the existing properties up there on 4700 block of Main and what's being proposed. Short answer, not in harmony, does not fit in with the characteristics of the neighborhood. Next slide, please. Okay, again, you see the current property right now, you see what they're proposing. You see on the right-hand side of the screen there, on the southern side of Main, this proposal doesn't fit in with those properties. Next slide. Again, 400 block of Main, you see a bunch of single-family homes, out of character with what's being proposed. Next slide. 4600 block, Elm Terrace itself, definitely not compatible, out of character, lack of harmony. Next slide. Same thing here on Bobolink, lack of character. Next slide. Thanks. Okay, so here's what the proposal is with the new look and feel. You can see the green space right now on the right-hand side, and you can see the lack of green space on the new look and feel. Next slide, please. And if you have any questions, just feel free to stop me, but I'll just keep going in the interest of time. All right, so here's what they proposed last month on the 11th. And you can see the lack of green space. This time there's more green space proposed. So let's go ahead and look at slide 15. Okay, so here's the additional green space that we got. Actually, we're losing green space here. This will all come into focus in the next slide here. So if you could advance, thank you. All right, so right now, as has been said, 47% of this existing site right now is green space, right? 4%, right, is hard surface. Next slide, please. Okay, so now the green space is going to be 21% under the new proposal, right? 47 minus 21, right, 26. So 26% reduction in green space. Okay, here's the new look. Oh, we're up 27% of the site, so good. We just lost 20% of the green space, so all right. All right, so here's my favorite slide right here, and you actually made the point that I was trying to make here. If you keep looking east, you don't see anything that is even as tall as what's being proposed. And you don't see anything to the south either. So you actually have to do really hard work. Again, I thought of the same site that you talked about on Skokie Boulevard that had a similar site, or height, I should say. So again, this just draws the point, right, that this is out of character with the neighborhood, and keeping it in existence with the Appearance Commission, the purviews of this commission, it doesn't fit in, and it doesn't fit in with the character of the neighborhood. All right, so let's wrap it up. Again, this is not in harmony with the existing neighborhood or the construction. The green space is being drastically reduced, and it should be rejected. Any questions?
No, thank you very much.
All right,
Is there
thanks.
Anybody else? Is there anybody else after this gentleman? Thank you.
I haven't been sworn in.
Sure.
Oh, you haven't been sworn in. You swear or affirm that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. My name is Chad Schmidt. I have a presentation. I'll go through it quickly as well.
Thank you.
My presentation is just about after reviewing the latest. Let's try and get this to the right height. After reviewing the latest documents.
No.
You don't have it. Okay.
I received Josh Gordon's and Ken Marley's.
Okay. I did. I had several emails with you. It was the unfinished business presentation. Dropbox link.
Oh, hang on.
Does that look familiar to you?
No, that's Ken's. So,
You wanna punch it up real quick? It's a drop box? I know which one it is. Punch it up on here. I know which one it is. If it's what you're talking about, I know which one it is. Yeah, no, I apologize. I know we got the two.
Sir, do you have a presentation or you just want to speak?
I also have a presentation, but actually, he coordinated each other and mine builds on his, kind of has a capstone.
Okay.
That was the first one, so we probably just got to do it.
Everyone look away, Mike. Let's pass it in.
Just hit the X.
Chad, how many changes did you make since we had it last? I've got them on.
I'm almost there. I don't know if I need to do any other.
Success?
Success.
Okay.
All right. So I just wanted to speak about the unfinished business that I noticed from just basically the omission of some important details as far as pictures, distances, sightlines, that kind of thing. Next slide. Specifically the context photos, the geometry on the new plan and sightlines. Next slide. What I found interesting is that the views provided only tell a story that the developer's looking for, and that's that it's not as open as it really is right now. They're predominantly outward-looking, neglecting the openness of the current site and the lack of height of any of the existing buildings. Next slide. So this was the slide provided. Next slide. And if you just look at the overview, you can kind of see that there is a large portion that is not really provided. So I'm going to provide that context. Next slide. So here is looking across from the, I believe that's Kilpatrick, from the west side of the property. Next slide. This is from the southwest corner. Nice little baseball field. Next slide. This is the front of the building. This is the kind of the contentious spot where there's going to be a 60-foot wall. Not even where that building is now. It's actually going to be closer. That is 40 feet off of the lot line. This is going to be 20 feet off the lot line. Next slide. And then this is the residential area that is right behind it in R1 with large lots. Next slide. From the other side, look at the happy family there. Next slide. So with the additional context photos, you can see that now we have the context for this site. Okay, next slide. So at the last meeting, it was asked about the newest section of the school and how tall it was. It's about 20, 30 feet, I think. And the existing building setbacks. Next slide. What was provided is an outline. Next slide. It's an outline of the existing building, and you can see the differences in scope of the proposal. And the only setback that was really hit is on the north side. All of the other ones are drastically moved out to all of the ends of the property lines. Next slide. And as far as sight lines, last year, or last meeting, it was mentioned that it would be beneficial to have sight lines from Elm Terrace. If you saw sightline presentations, it might answer our concerns. So provided was a very simple sight line. Next slide. From the backyard and from the front yard of Elm Terrace. And the front yard of the north side homes on Elm Terrace may not be as crazy because of looking over a house. But number two, to me, is kind of crazy. You have a wall, and I guess the trees are there, but the trees are not completely full. So to me, that demonstrates exactly the point that we were trying to demonstrate, is that the the setbacks of those properties are very much in the sight lines of existing properties. Next slide. I think you went backwards, Brian.
Yeah, Brian, go downward, please.
Sorry.
And then if you can zoom out a little bit. And then finally, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And the story it tells is the intent of whoever's taking the picture. I think it's convenient that in order to show harmony and the property, the pictures taken are from the height of the Statue of Liberty. It's 250 feet and 450 feet. I mean, we're not birds, we're people. I want to see what the height is from 5 feet, from 15 feet. That's where people are, that's where cars are, that's where everyone who lives in the neighborhood is going to be seeing this.
All right, you need to, we've covered this kind of stuff. Keep going. We gave you a.
Okay, finally.
I did.
The Statue of Liberty is in New York. This is not New York. This is not Chicago. This is not downtown Evanston. It's residential Main Street, and we do not need a 5-story building in residential Main Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Am I correct in saying this was the last presentation and speaker, correct? Okay, thank you.
Want to swear me in?
No,
Sure.
he does that. I'm not allowed
You swear
to.
or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
Everybody hear me just fine?
Yep.
All right.
This yours?
That's mine.
Just want to make sure.
That's me. So, building off what Chad was just talking about, the sightline information that was requested by the commission last week was it was very lacking. We didn't have very much to go on from the sheet provided. Next slide, please. Just requoting what was asked of the applicant. Next slide. What the applicant actually provided. Next slide. Next slide. We've all seen this. Let's just do it. So they didn't give us a whole lot of information, and I wanted to figure out why would they, you know, why would they not give what was asked for? And you know, one of the things that we were doing in preparation for our resistance to the development is we've turned to one of the best, you know, legal books that we could find, the Illinois Zoning, Eminent Domain, and Land Use Manual. Highly appropriate.
I'm going to stop you right there for a second.
Yep.
Okay, we're not talking about zoning.
Let me just read the last
Okay.
thing. I promise
Go
you
ahead.
this is
I'll-
entirely
I'll
pertinent.
give you a little latitude here, but again, I did not want to get into this stuff. Okay?
You'll see where I'm building to
You can
this.
Save this for the next one.
If blocked views are an issue, construct the building in virtual reality. If the proposal seems too dense, lay out the subdivision to show the amount of side yards and open space in the plan. They couldn't do that with the slides they had because there is none of that. Next, click. By the way, that's Mark's book. Thank you, Mark. Loved it. It's a great book. So they won't answer our questions, so gosh darn it, we're going to have to answer their questions for them. We'll do their work. I constructed a 3D model, everything to scale. Property lines are shown. Yellow is R1. Not that it matters for you guys. Peach is R4. Again, not that it matters.
I'm sorry. Just so you know, in all fairness to them, they did provide it.
You'll see there's more.
I didn't let them show it. So
They didn't submit it to the public.
Are those shading? The shading plans are on there? Okay.
Oh, this isn't even about the shading plan. It's getting spicy.
All right, go ahead.
Let's go to the next.
How many slides more, sir?
This is
Because
we'll do this.
I might stop it.
I need 3 minutes.
You got 2.5. Go.
All right, hit play. We did their job for them. And for anyone's information, this is all public available video on YouTube. Save Skokie Main Street. Brian, please hit play. My clock is ticking. Don't count those seconds against me, please. Existing condition. This is my backyard. That's what's proposed. That's a sight line. They have filled the sky. They've taken the property. They've taken the. There's a 6 foot privacy fence. There's no privacy with a 6 foot privacy fence when you got a 30-foot building 30 feet back from you. The 6 foot property fence gives you 8 feet of privacy. That's the math. It's math. The views aren't great for the people in those townhouses either. You can see my backyard or, the apartment building behind them. Another neighbor, nice backyard. Well, it was. What does the apartment get to see? Everything. Sees everybody. There's me, hi, grilling on the patio. Main Street. Nice eye full of it all. Give me 45 more seconds. We're gonna take a drive, guys. We're cruising Main Street, everybody. Hop on in. Wow, this is beautiful. Gorgeous. It's a beautiful building. It doesn't belong there, but it is a beautiful building. I'm sorry I don't have the skills to actually render anything properly, but all the sizes are, again, to scale.
Understood.
Let's go. Anita, we're going to see you in just a second. You'll notice the setbacks are even out of line with everything up and down the block. Out of line. Anita she loves gardening. There she is. You'll be able to see her petunias, no problem.
Yeah, I will have, but the privacy in my backyard is gone. Because
Gone.
my single-family home
Ma'am,
has got
ma'am,
a
ma'am, either,
five-story
if you're gonna speak, you need to come up and be sworn in, or whatever, but I think we're getting the gist of the public opinion, is what I'm getting at, okay? Thank you.
All right, there's one last person whose yard I want to visit. My neighbor Shamoon. Shamoon, his house is right smack dab behind that existing 2-story property of the school. And, this is what his view would look like in the future. Doesn't look great. Gosh darn, I really wish I had that 2-story school in my backyard after this is all done. Man, I wish I had that view in about 3 or 4 years, unless you guys can help stop it. Thank you. Oh,
Thank you very much.
next slide. I got one quick
Sure.
thing to wrap it up. Real picture. Next. Virtual reality. Everything's to scale here. It's real. It's legit. Next picture. Ugh, dreaded reality. Next. Yeah, just reject it, please.
Thank you. So, thank you guys for your comment. Thank you for your feedback. I guess it should also be brought up that the first speaker, they did present us with a letter and all their, neighborhood petitions. I think the commissioners have heard my opinion. I don't know if anybody else feels more to comment at this point right now.
Chair, do we have an opportunity to respond to the comments
Yes,
made?
yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. It's true. Schools have a lot of green space. They always will. They're usually surrounded by a lot of open space. Our calculations are a little bit different than everybody else's, but needless to say, I think we disagree by about 15% on how much open space there is between what? Green space only. We excluded the.
Okay,
we
again,
excluded the
we're not gonna be
pavement from our
swayed by 10 or
calculation.
15. Just,
The trip generation of schools is significant. And I know this isn't your purview, but I'm gonna say it here and I'll say it again at the zoning hearing. Our traffic report counts 500 less trips per day. So the concerns about driving on the neighbor's property and up the curbs should be significantly diminished because there's not gonna be the same amount of traffic. Schools generate a tremendous amount of traffic that residential properties don't. That improves the safety of the neighborhood. The sight lines that we're providing are significant for people to be able to see. And as I said earlier tonight, we're keeping all the existing landscaping. The mature trees along the north property line are going to remain. And but there are trees on the other side of the property. In
Again,
addition
this
to,
is heated,
please
they
look
weren't
at our
speaking up
landscape
when you
plan.
guys were talking, let them please speak.
Please look at our landscape plan. We intend to
Yeah, we
landscape
saw
the
that.
north side as well, with every intention of preserving everyone's privacy. The woman that lives to the east of us has a significantly lushful landscape around her property. I don't know that anyone is going to see through all those trees. And lastly, the facade along Main Street isn't one big flat wall. We are texturing it with outdoor space provided for the residents. Outdoor space is an important thing for people that live in apartments. We all experienced that for the last 2.5 years, where everybody needed a little relief. That relief that they get by having some outdoor space in their apartments is important to their health and wellness, and it adds texture to the facade of the building. It's deep enough so that it's accessible, which means that it's not insignificant in how far it projects. There's a lot more that can be talked about as far as where is the density in the community. The golf course is to the east. The density, yes, is further to the west, and it's to the south. We think it's appropriate in its scale and appearance, and it does provide for housing that's in need.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Aside from what I commented, was there any other comments from the commissioners?
I'd just like to say that I appreciate the changes you made to the site plan. You did listen to what some of my concerns were. I think you did open parking up in the center a little bit to create a little bit more opening. I like how you rotated the townhouse. However, now I'm just hearing myself talk and just listening to myself talk, so I think some of the comments are good ones. And one of the reasons why I did have a comment about how the parking was laid out in the early one, it seemed really tight and dense.
Yeah.
And it's still all parking. You do have green strips.
Yep.
But they're green space, but they're not really usable green space. And I think the point about public green space or usable green space is really a good one, and I think it's something that needs to be considered in a development like this. I happen to really like the idea, and I understand that, especially inner ring suburbs are changing, and they're gonna be changing, and the little space that's left needs to be optimized. That said, it's one of the last spots we got, and if you're gonna go big, and, not a, seeing a SketchUp building and a, kind of a presentation that we see for developments like this anywhere in the city, it just, just kick it up, and architecturally, everything. This is one of our last big sites, and if it is relevant, and this is not our purview, whether it's, I'd love to be on the plan commission, I'd love to be able to talk about zoning, I'd love to be able to talk about massing, all of that stuff. But appearance-wise, 5 stories, it better be dazzling, and it just needs to be bumped up if this is the route you're gonna go. I think some of the comments about the 3-story townhouses on the neighbors are good ones. I think there's a lot of 3-story townhouses in Skokie that are done really well. I think once they're in, people get used to them, particularly with a 30-foot setback on the rear. A lot of the homes are 2 stories long, and they have larger than 30-foot rear yards, even though 30-foot is the R1 standard. They have hip roofs, gable roofs, all of those other things. This is different for the neighborhood.
Sure.
But it's happening, and again, it's not dazzling to me. This is one of the last sites, and I think we really need to be really cognizant of what's going on here. And I think as far as all of this goes, I hope to God the private golf course stays. But that's, who knows what's going to
No idea.
And in all honesty, I mean, all these, like this, school sites, all this other stuff. But from an appearance standpoint, from a global appearance standpoint, the setback along the front, it needs to match the neighboring houses on either side. I think you've done that, but it doesn't take us long.
Arshana, do you have anything? I'm sorry, Joe, I didn't mean,
live down the street
I kind
from
of
here.
thought that was your closing, so.
It is.
Go ahead, Arshana. Do you have anything to say? If you don't, that's fine.
I do not agree with the front, the 60 feet, yeah.
Julie, do you have any comment?
Well, I didn't think it was compatible last time, and I don't think it's compatible with the neighborhood this time.
Tom or Jay?
Well, I also like that you did listen. I like the rotation of the townhomes. But I also decided basically last week that the height of the building, to me, that is a unharmonious appearance. So I'm not in favor. If it was an all townhomes, I'd probably vote for it. But a 60-foot tall apartment building, probably won't.
Jay, did you have anything to say? or you're
Yeah, I
okay?
also think that appearance wise, your submission is really good, but I think you need some changes. Maybe you can go for some lower height or something like that, you know, or more greenery, green space and like that.
So let me make a recommendation. And this is gonna be a little similar to the one I said to the neighbors in the first case. When I tell the public, there will be something built here. You're gonna know that, right? And I'm gonna tell the applicant, you wanna build something here, but if you guys had any experience with what happened here in the last year, I would try to get together and figure out something that meets both your client's needs and their needs, because it'll be long and tedious, okay? I don't know that of the six of us, if anybody even wanted to put forth a motion, and we could send it out to vote, and then just let the chips fall where they may on that, on a vote tonight. I'm telling you that I don't think it will pass. In fact, I could probably take a straw poll here and know that it won't tonight, but it'd be my recommendation for everybody's harmony that you guys figure out a way to get together. And I don't know if you do that through council and through whatever representative, and you guys chat outside in the hall and go, what can we do together to make this thing work? And you know, you represent whoever owns the land. I don't know if it,
No tall buildings.
yeah, whatever, but, you know, you need to get with your client. I don't know whether, if your client's actually sitting here or not, but you need to get with your client and go, look there's some major opposition here from the neighborhood. And I don't want to talk politics, but there was a particular case earlier that went through several steps and got up to the village board, and you can see how that went, if you want to go look back at video. Okay, so I'm just trying to work out some harmony here, okay? Because I know that this won't pass tonight. And it's my suggestion that you guys work together to come to common ground. Does that make logical sense from I know he's essentially the agent of the client.
Yep.
But it is what it is. I mean, that is a massive undertaking of amount of units in that square footage. So that's my recommendation. Can you hang on one second? Want to make a comment to that?
Sure, and as always, appreciate your honesty and straightforwardness. One thing to clear up, while you are correct, I do represent the current owners of this property on other matters, their new development. In this case, I'm here representing the contract purchase of the property. It's not their property. And so, you know, I think we'll take your advice. I can also count heads and would ask that you continue this, and we'll have to talk with the property owners and, both those who own this property and everything else. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we all know there's as much opposition to the existing school here as there is opposition to the new plan. And, you know, we'll have to decide what's going to happen. with that. Right.
Yes. What he's referring to is the parking and the driving and the 2 lanes wide, and I'm quite sure none of you guys are happy about that. So let's not mince words, okay?
We've had decades to learn to live with that, though.
I'm just saying, my suggestion is that whoever the eventual owner of this property is gonna be for this development, hook up with the community and come together.
And my question is, you know, we all have to do this in our spare time. Like, they get to do this as their job. We work, we have families, we have kids. I've lost sleep. Those models aren't easy to make. My question for you is, what sort of timeline do you think is reasonable? Because, again, I don't know when we fit this into our schedules. Like,
Well,
I'm asking this very seriously for
No,
some
what
guidance.
I'm gonna say, here's what I would suggest, okay? You exchange contact information, whoever the leader of the sign was that held up, you have a coffee or an open house at the school or something like that, and go, hey, guys, you gotta have a talking session. They gotta hear you. They heard you tonight, but they
They heard us last month and they didn't do anything about
Sir,
it.
I'm
That's
making.
that's my concern.
Sir, it's not going through tonight. And I told you, after appearance, it goes to planning, and then it goes to the board, okay? I can only control appearance. I'm doing much more than I should be doing right now, too, okay? I get it.
I
You want to
appreciate
protect
that.
your property. I'm suggesting, this happens all the time. Developers say, come on over and take a look at what we want to do. I'm asking them to make that invitation to you guys, and that you guys give feedback sessions, so we don't get into this political this here, at meetings like this or planning. I think you want a development that everybody can be proud of, that you've put input into. They want to be I'm sure that the eventual owner wants to be harmonious. He's got to make some money too, but it's got to be something that it works.
Great idea.
Thank you.
May I be sworn in and say something?
Yes, briefly. You've said quite a bit from back there.
I'm sorry, because I've got a single-family home.
But, ma'am, before you speak, I want to say something. Have you not heard what we've said? I just want to make sure that you've heard what we've said. Okay, we are not about to vote on this. I'm trying to get you together, so I'm going to give you a minute. Go ahead, swear her in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do. All right, now, again, I appreciate the emotionalness of this. Okay, I do. So go ahead, take a deep breath. I'll take a deep breath and just say what you want to say.
I didn't want to have to come up.
I know, but come on.
I too have lost sleep over this.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that has bothered me amongst all the things you talk about working together, this project has been put to the village in the summertime. None of us who live in the neighborhood, did those developers think to consider us, to ask us what we think? Why didn't they think to do that now?
That's not normally the protocol. Not normally. Sometimes it happens, but it's not the normal protocol. This is the normal protocol. They apply for it. If it flies through with no resistance, it flies through. If it gets resistance, I'm just telling you the real world. I know. It's just how it is. I'm suggesting that we go back to the path that you would like to see happen. Work together. That's my suggestion. Okay? Okay, so I think everybody has their marching orders. Hopefully, everybody's equally not happy, which means we caught the middle, because if everybody was equally happy, that would be a miracle. So, do me a favor, get together after this meeting and figure out something. Again, nothing's gonna happen with another appearance commission until they, you'll be notified in some way, shape, or form, okay? And it'll take them some time to, you guys have to come together. They've got some time. This thing doesn't, they may have other getting a loan situations, but this thing isn't gonna hit the ground running. That school's still operating for another year or so. Okay?
One quick question.
Yes.
So ultimately, this will ultimately have to come back in front of this committee again, and at some point, this committee will have to make a decision.
Correct, but I may, and I'm gonna consult my village staff, I may in this situation, if you guys can come to agreement on density and stuff like that, I might say, and I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but I might say, this really should hit planning before it hits us. That would be the thing, no matter what, the board has to, the village board has to approve it, ultimately at the end of the day.
No, I understand.
Okay? But at some point, if this is so contentious about size and mass, I might talk to the village attorney and go, this really needs to hit planning before it hits us because we're not coming to any agreement. I don't know if I have the right to do that. I have to talk with the village accountant. But you're right, no matter what, it's gotta touch us.
Okay.
And no matter what, it's gotta touch planning, and lastly, it hits the village board.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
And
All
there's
right.
rezoning. There's-
Well, zoning's in the planning.
That'd be part of the plan commission.
Okay, thank you all very much. Sorry this took so long, but if it wasn't for that first contentious case, yours would have been a breeze. Meeting is adjourned. Here's my gavel.